Keanu Reeves was known for his generosity and humble nature, but no one could have predicted how a simple encounter would change the lives of both him and a young teacher named Emily. It was an ordinary morning when Keanu attended a charity event in a small community, drawn there by a desire to make a positive difference. As he moved through the crowded hall, shaking hands and listening to speeches, his attention was captured by a woman standing at the back of the room. Emily, in her late 20s, stood out not because of her appearance, but because of the passion she exuded as she spoke to a group of students who had come to attend the event. She was explaining how education was the key to unlocking their potential, and her words were filled with sincerity and conviction. Keanu, intrigued by her energy, made his way over to introduce himself after hearing her mention her work as a teacher. They spoke briefly, and Keanu was immediately struck by Emily's dedication to her students. She explained how she had recently taken on the challenge of teaching in an underfunded school, where resources were scarce, and students often struggled with basic educational tools. Emily shared how despite the lack of resources, she was determined to inspire her students, even if it meant going without. Keanu could feel the fire in her words, and something within him stirred. He felt compelled to help her, knowing that her passion could shape the future of her students. Keanu's curiosity grew as he learned more about Emily's school and the struggles she faced daily. She explained how the lack of classroom supplies, outdated textbooks, and limited access to technology made teaching a constant challenge. Despite these obstacles, Emily remained unwavering in her commitment to her students. She worked tirelessly, spending her own money to purchase educational materials and creating innovative lesson plans to make up for the gaps in her resources. Keanu, listening intently, couldn't help but admire her determination. But he also recognized the profound impact that a lack of proper resources had on her ability to reach her students in the most effective way. After a long conversation, Keanu offered to help, but Emily was initially hesitant. She didn't want to be seen as seeking charity, and she wasn't used to asking for help. However, Keanu assured her that he wasn't offering out of pity, but out of a deep belief in her potential to make a difference. He promised that he would provide the resources she needed to transform her classroom, giving her the tools to ignite her students' passions for learning and to build a better future for them. Emily's heart swelled with gratitude, but she couldn't help but feel a bit overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Keanu was offering. This wasn't just about materials. It was about the opportunity to truly make a lasting impact on the lives of the young people she taught. Over the following weeks, Keanu worked closely with Emily to understand her specific needs. He toured her school, meeting with other teachers and administrators to assess the most pressing issues and how he could help. Keanu learned that the school was in desperate need of technology upgrades, computers that were functional, projectors for visual learning, and access to educational software. The library was outdated, with books that hadn't been replaced in years. Keanu also discovered that the students lacked adequate study materials, from notebooks and pens to more advanced resources like science kits or art supplies. As he gathered the information, he began making arrangements. He reached out to various educational organizations, tech companies, and even some of his personal connections in the entertainment industry, asking for support in securing donations. Within a matter of weeks, the funds and resources began pouring in. Keanu's connections helped secure the necessary technology, and his reputation helped raise awareness about the school's plight, bringing in sponsors who were eager to make a difference. Emily was overwhelmed as boxes of new supplies, books, and equipment arrived at her school. What had once felt like an impossible dream was now becoming a reality, thanks to Keanu's determination to help her. As the new semester began, Emily's classroom transformed. The students, once distracted and disengaged due to the lack of resources, now had access to computers and tablets that allowed them to explore the world beyond their textbooks. The new library books inspired them to read with enthusiasm, and the science kits encouraged hands-on learning that made complex concepts come to life. The walls of the classroom, once barren and dull, were now adorned with colorful posters, maps, and educational materials that sparked curiosity and excitement. Emily's teaching methods evolved, as she now had the tools to implement more interactive lessons, creating an environment where her students were eager to participate and learn. As she watched her students thrive, Emily felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. Keanu's support had given her the opportunity to not only teach, but to truly reach her students in ways she had never imagined. The bond between Emily and her students grew stronger, and their academic performance improved significantly. For Emily, the impact was both professional and personal. She had always believed in her students' potential, but now, with the resources to nurture that potential, she saw firsthand how transformative education could be when it was properly supported. Keanu's generosity had not only changed her life, but also the lives of countless students who now had the chance to achieve things they never thought possible. As the months passed, the changes in Emily's classroom became increasingly evident. Her students, who had once struggled to stay engaged, were now flourishing. The new technology allowed them to explore subjects like history, science, and literature in ways that were previously unimaginable. Students who had once been reluctant readers began devouring books, while others found themselves excited to tackle complex mathematical problems with the help of interactive software. Emily was no longer just a teacher. She had become a mentor and guide, helping her students realize their full potential. The energy in her classroom shifted from one of survival to one of thriving. The sense of possibility that filled the air was palpable. Emily knew that the resources Keanu had provided were not just tools, they were catalysts for change. The classroom now resembled a place where curiosity and creativity were nurtured, not stifled. Keanu's investment had made a lasting impact, not just on her teaching methods, but on her students' futures. Emily began to see her students dream bigger, believing that they could achieve whatever they set their minds to. The once quiet and uncertain voices were now filled with excitement and confidence, as they participated in class discussions and eagerly raised their hands to answer questions. The school had become a space for growth, and Emily felt more connected to her students than ever before. As word spread about the transformation of Emily's classroom, other teachers and schools began to take notice. Emily, now recognized as a shining example of how access to resources could unlock a student's potential, was invited to share her experience at local educational conferences. She spoke passionately about the difference that proper funding and support could make, not just for her own classroom, but for all students in underfunded schools. The opportunities she had been given had empowered her to become a stronger advocate for education reform, and she used her platform to inspire others to take action. Emily's work began to have a ripple effect. Teachers from neighboring schools reached out to her for advice and support, and some even started their own fundraising campaigns to improve their classrooms. Keanu's act of kindness had sparked a movement, one that would continue to spread as long as people believed in the power of education. Emily became a beacon of hope, not just for her students, but for teachers everywhere who were struggling with limited resources. She had become a living testament to the idea that with the right tools and support, teachers could change the world. One day, as Emily prepared for her last day of school before summer break, Keanu visited her classroom once more. He had heard about the remarkable progress her students had made, and he wanted to see it for himself. As he walked through the doors, he was greeted by a chorus of excited voices and the sight of students working together in small groups, discussing their projects and collaborating on new ideas. Emily, now with more confidence than ever, greeted him with a smile. "Keanu, I can't even begin to thank you for what you've done. These kids, they're changing, and it's all because of the opportunities you gave us. You've made a real difference." Keanu looked around the room, watching as the students engaged with the materials and technology that had once seemed out of reach. He smiled, knowing that the real credit went to Emily and her unwavering commitment to her students. "You did all the hard work," Keanu said. "I just provided the tools. You're the one who made this possible." As they spoke, a group of students approached him, eager to share their excitement about the new things they were learning. Keanu listened intently, knowing that the future was now brighter for these young minds, thanks to Emily's tireless efforts and the resources that had allowed them to flourish. The day was a celebration of how far they had come, but it was also a reminder that the journey was just beginning. Keanu left Emily's classroom that day feeling a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that his small act of kindness had played a part in shaping a better future for these students, and in turn for the world. The following day, Emily found herself sitting at her desk, preparing for the new group of students that would walk through her door in just a few hours. The air was thick with anticipation as she reviewed her lesson plans, fine-tuning the activities she had designed to push her students beyond their limits. Her thoughts were interrupted when the bell rang, signaling the beginning of the school day. One by one, her students filtered into the classroom, and Emily greeted them with a warm smile, just as she had done for the past year. But this time, there was a different energy in the room. The excitement from last year's improvements was still present, but today felt like a fresh beginning. She could see the growth in her students. Many had come back with new perspectives, ready to dive into their studies with even more enthusiasm than before. As Emily began her first lesson of the day, she saw how far they had come. The students who were once hesitant to participate were now engaged, eager to answer questions and share their thoughts. Emily encouraged them to think critically about the topics they were exploring, and the classroom buzzed with discussions and ideas. Keanu's contribution had done more than just provide the tools for their learning. It had given them the confidence to believe in their own abilities. With each lesson, Emily could see how much her students had grown, not just in knowledge, but in character. They were becoming problem solvers, thinkers, and communicators, skills that would serve them well for the rest of their lives. As Emily moved from group to group, guiding her students through their work, she reflected on how fortunate she was. It was days like this that reminded her why she chose to become a teacher, and she couldn't help but feel immense gratitude toward Keanu for making it all possible. After lunch, Emily gathered her students together for a group project. She divided them into teams, each with a different aspect of the lesson to explore. As the students worked together, Emily could see the bonds they were forming. They helped each other, challenged each other, and celebrated each other's successes. It was a stark contrast to the first few weeks of the previous year when many of them had kept to themselves, unsure of how to collaborate. The change in their dynamic was proof that the new classroom resources had done more than just enhance their learning. They had fostered a sense of teamwork and shared purpose. Emily wandered between the groups, offering guidance and prompting them to think deeper about the questions at hand. She was amazed at the level of insight and critical thinking her students were displaying. They weren't just memorizing facts, they were applying their knowledge to solve real-world problems. It was moments like this that reaffirmed her belief in the power of education. Emily was no longer just a teacher in a classroom. She was a guide, helping to shape her students into the leaders of tomorrow. And it wasn't just the academic side of their education that Emily focused on. She was equally dedicated to helping her students grow as compassionate, thoughtful individuals. As she watched them interact, she knew that they were learning valuable life lessons about collaboration, empathy, and problem-solving, skills that would serve them long after they left her classroom. As the school day drew to a close, Emily gathered her students for a final reflection. She asked them to share one thing they had learned that day and one thing they were excited to learn in the future. The responses she received were heartwarming. One student shared that they had learned the importance of asking questions and not being afraid to make mistakes. Another mentioned that they were excited to learn more about technology and how it could be used to solve problems. The students were thinking critically, not just about the lessons at hand, but about how those lessons connected to the world beyond the classroom. Emily couldn't help but smile as she listened to them. She felt a deep sense of pride, knowing that these young minds were beginning to understand the power of learning. After all the students had shared their thoughts, Emily took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. The transformation in her classroom was undeniable. Keanu's contribution had provided her with the resources, but it was the students' hard work and enthusiasm that had truly made the difference. Emily was humbled by the journey they had shared together and felt hopeful for the future. As the students filed out of the classroom, eager to return the next day, Emily sat at her desk, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had been given the opportunity to make a difference, not just in her students' lives, but in the future of education. And it was all because Keanu had believed in her. She looked out the window, knowing that today had been just another step toward the bright future she and her students were building together. In the final stretch of the school year, Emily's classroom was alive with the kind of energy she had only dreamed of when she first began teaching. As the weather warmed and the days grew longer, her students took on new challenges with excitement, their once timid voices now filled with confidence and conviction. The lessons they had learned about teamwork, perseverance, and critical thinking had become ingrained in their daily interactions. It wasn't just about completing assignments anymore. It was about engaging with the material, asking questions, and making connections to the real world. Emily had witnessed firsthand how the investment in her classroom had transformed the way her students viewed learning, and now they were not just focused on grades or assignments, but on understanding the world around them and how they could shape it. The resources Keanu had provided were no longer just tools. They had become the foundation for a culture of innovation, where students took ownership of their education and supported one another's growth. Emily was overwhelmed with pride as she watched her students take on leadership roles within the classroom, guiding their peers, offering help when needed, and celebrating each other's achievements. She had always believed in the power of education, but now she was seeing the proof right before her eyes, the power of a community of learners, each lifting the other up. As the year came to a close, Emily sat with her students for their final project presentations. The room was filled with excitement as each group took their turn, sharing what they had learned and the solutions they had developed for various real-world problems. There were projects on sustainability, community service, and innovation in education, all of which demonstrated the growth and creativity of her students. Emily could hardly believe how far they had come. These were the same students who, just months earlier, had struggled with basic concepts, had been reluctant to participate, or had doubted their own abilities. Now, they were presenting well-thought-out projects that reflected their growth not only as students but as problem solvers and leaders. The success of the final project presentations was a testament to the transformation that had taken place in Emily's classroom, a transformation made possible by the resources that Keanu had so generously provided. It wasn't just about teaching facts or preparing students for tests. It was about giving them the tools and opportunities to explore, create, and innovate. Emily knew that the impact of Keanu's donation had gone far beyond just the materials in her classroom. It had instilled a sense of purpose in her students, empowering them to believe in themselves and in the possibilities of their futures. As she watched her students celebrate their successes, Emily realized that the real gift Keanu had given her was not just the resources, but the opportunity to be a part of their journey as they moved toward a brighter future, one they could now shape with their own hands. With a full heart, Emily knew that the work had just begun, and the legacy of Keanu's generosity would continue to inspire not only her students, but the entire community. Emily's journey from a teacher struggling with limited resources to an inspiring educator who transformed her classroom was a testament to the profound impact that support and belief in one's potential can have. With Keanu Reeves' generous contribution, she was able to provide her students with the tools they needed to succeed, fostering an environment where creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration flourished. As her students grew in confidence and skill, Emily's classroom became a place of innovation and empowerment, a beacon of what is possible when resources are matched with passion and dedication. The ripple effect of this transformation extended beyond her own students, inspiring fellow teachers and community leaders to embrace the power of investment in education. The legacy of Keanu's kindness created a lasting change that would continue to shape the futures of many, reinforcing the idea that one act of generosity can change the lives of many for years to come. Through this experience, Emily not only changed the trajectory of her students' lives, but also ignited a spark of hope and possibility that would light the way for future generations.